And there was a gentleman there prior to the parade, and he talked to us, and he just lost his father, who was a World War II veteran. And the guy came up, and he said, "You're a hero." And my dad just shook his head, and he had a tear rolling down his cheek. He said, "No, I'm not." He says, "Yes, you are." And that was very touching, because my dad never acknowledged that. So it was a good day. My name is Robert Armstead. I'm 66 years old. I lived in Michigan all my life, except when I moved my dad down to Louisville back in November 2016. We moved down there, and we lived there for a couple years, and then he got really sick, and then he passed away down there, and I decided to move back to Michigan. It's going to make history in the state of Michigan and possibly in the United States, because to have a Civil War, World War I, World War II veterans, all family members buried side by side is unheard of. I can't find anyone yet to tell me that that's been done before. It may have, but I can't find anyone right now.
Tell me about your dad. What kind of person he was, or like how was the relationship that you had with your dad?
Very good. I mean, excellent. When somebody passes away, especially a family member, it's just like you think about everything in life. It just in an instant, all life things go past you. And to tell you what kind of guy he was, I mean, he's 17 years old. He didn't have a car, so he'd either walk, take the bus, whatever. So he saved up enough money to buy his first car. What did he do? He gave it to his mom. He gave it to his mom. I mean, how many people would do that? So that's the kind of guy he was. And he was consistent like that all of his life. He was a combat veteran. He was a tanker. They shipped out of Norfolk, Virginia, and that's where they were staging, and they landed in Naples, Italy. And when they were staging in Naples, Italy, they actually stayed at one of the farms that the dictator had over there. And then they went up, and then they went to Po Valley for a major battle. And it was all being staged for a long time, and the whole idea was to trap the Germans there so they couldn't get back into Germany. So they were very successful. They had 250,000 Allied troops, and they had, I think they captured 100,000 Axis troops. And at one point, the German troops were just so fed up and giving up that they only had a couple American troops guarding tens of thousands of these German soldiers, believe it or not. They just weren't going to run away. He had nightmares and stuff like that, and anytime you go into combat, and I'm not a veteran, but I know enough veterans, you know, it affects you. It affects you the rest of your life one way or another. And another thing, it affects your family too, because you got to see the veterans suffering, and it affects the family. So it was the 4th of July. We were down in Plymouth, Michigan, and we had a restaurant down there, and we were setting up for the parade, and my dad was out there, and a commander from a VFW post came up and asked my dad if he wanted to be in the parade. My dad never been in a parade in his life. My dad said no, and then the commander got me aside. He said, "I think it'd really be good for him," because World War II veterans, their position was, we did our job, that's it, we're going home, that's it, and they never really talked about it. My dad never talked about it, but anyways, I talked my dad into going, and we drove in the parade, and it did a lot for him because people were waving to him, and that was really nice. My dad and I, we moved from Michigan, lower Michigan, down to Louisville, Kentucky, November 30th, 2016. And middle of December, I called Fort Knox, spoke with John, the liaison there, and just asked him if we could come and tour the place, because that's where my dad did his basic training, was Fort Knox. And John said, "Yeah, sure, great." I'd never been to Fort Knox before, and he said, "Go down this road." So I'm driving down this road. All of a sudden, he points, and there's a couple guys, civilians, coming down the stairs. He says, "There's the Major General Hughes. He wasn't supposed to be here. He's on vacation because I want your dad to meet him." So I'm driving really slow, and I'm praying to God that the Major General gets in the car and comes right behind us. And so I'm coming to a stop sign, and John says, "Okay, make a left here." I said, "Well, yeah, just a moment, just a moment." And I'm stalling for time. Long story short, Major General gets in his car, backs up, he's right behind us. And I said, "John, the Major General is right behind us. I'm going to go talk to him." He says, "You can't do that, you can't do that." So I jump out of my car, and I go up to the side of the car, and the Major General's there. And I went up to him very politely, and I introduced myself, and I said, "My dad's a World War II veteran." And Major General was great. He stopped in the middle of the road, opened up his door, he walked over to the vehicle, and he thanked my dad for his service. And my dad was very choked up about it. I didn't have a camera at the time. It's one of those Kodak memories. All three veterans will be buried side by side, and it's going to be history, but also it'll be patriotism too, because people are always going there, and there may be some small boy or girl 10, 20, 30, 40, 100 years from now and just ask mommy and daddy and say, "What is the Civil War?" And the parents may not even know, and they'll force them hopefully to look it up, and they'll just go, "Wow, Civil War actually happened in this country," or "What was World War I? What was World War II?" So there's a lot going into it, and there's a combat association of war veterans. They have, they're national, and I hope that they'll be able to escort my three family members from the funeral home to Great Lakes National Cemetery. Christopher English, the assistant director for Great Lakes National Cemetery, he asked me if I wanted it private or public. And I had to think about it for a week. And I said, I called him back and I said, "Mr. English," I said, "let's do it public, because I want everyone to know about it and take something away from it." And when they bury my three relatives, all combat veterans, I just wanted every veteran that comes there, that will be a part of them when we bury them. And also, there's a lot of veterans that don't know that they can be buried at a national cemetery, and Mr. English brought that out. So hopefully, by going public, it raises more awareness for our veterans, their families, and the general public, so they respect veterans more. God bless all of our veterans. Thank you.